listen to his quiet invitation to move.
For more episodes of Heartbeat, visit salvationarmyradio.org.
Welcome to Fight for Life, a pro-life radio show discussing the ministry of First Choice Pregnancy Services here in Las Vegas. I'm Deborah, board member and executive director of First Choice Pregnancy Services.
And I'm Jessica, logistics specialist at First Choice Pregnancy Services.
We are ambassadors for the unborn. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Fight for Life friends. Thanks for joining us today. This is Jess, and I have Celeste. We are your ambassadors on behalf of the unborn babies everywhere, and we're here to share insights and real-life stories of what we've experienced in this fight for life.
We are kicking off our broadcast with the weekly update so you can stay connected to the First Choice Ministry and how many lives are affected by your support. From February 23rd to March 1st of 2023, First Choice provided 47 pregnancy tests and 46 ultrasounds to our clients. The patients we serve are mainly abortion-bound, but we serve women from all walks of life. Important to reach them from our free services and speak up for their defenseless child. If you'd like to join the conversation or if you're interested in sponsoring this radio show, call the radio station at 702-650-5588.
I'd like to kick off this broadcast with just mentioning that if you're paying attention and following our statistics that we provide at the beginning of these shows, the numbers that we provided this week are drastically low. And that is because we are under spiritual and, social attack. Because there are certain searches that we used to be able to be at the top of when someone is Googling abortion or abortion pill or whatever. We used to be at the top of those searches, and now we've been suppressed. Mm-hmm. And so if you could just pray for that, and that we are able to bring awareness of our pregnancy center back up toward the top of the search list, we would appreciate that. We'd love to be, our numbers used to be double this, more than double. And so I want to bring some awareness to that, because you're hearing the numbers, they are dropping, and it's not fake. This is not anything that we make up. We track all these numbers, and if we can get Google to put our search back up to the top, that would be very helpful for all of the babies that are fighting for their lives right now. Today's guest we have is Lorena, and she's on Instagram. She's My Children's Advocate. She is an activist here in Las Vegas, and she just moved from LA 5 years ago. She felt the call to get involved when she got here. Welcome, Lorena.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So tell us more. Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you for coming on. Tell us more about your background and what led you into getting active in our community.
So I was a stay-at-home mom, just raising my kids, minding my business, trying to do the best I could for my kids. And as years went on,
it's okay.
Sorry about that. Things got increasingly different as they started getting older. My child who had attended kindergarten, 10 years later, there was another child of mine facing kindergarten, and it was a different world. So it was shocking to me that things had changed around them in their society so drastically that it started impacting just the way I wanted to raise my kids was in question, what I wanted them exposed to. So I knew I had to do something at some point. And it was a lot of built-up frustration. And I think a lot of parents at home, a lot of stay-at-home moms, were just feeling the same thing. We were just getting frustrated and kind of just standing by, hoping things would get better. And they didn't. So that's exactly when we started getting active.
So how did you get involved, and what are you doing now to fight for our next generation?
So back in 2020, during the lockdowns, we saw the mask mandate come along and the vaccine mandates really impacting our kids. And there was a psychological impact, health impact. And as parents, when you were against it, you were deemed as being on the wrong side. you were a problem if you weren't in favor of whatever the government was making decisions for your
And
kids.
some would even say now, radicals.
Yeah, exactly. We were labeled as the worst possible thing just for having a natural concern for your child. So around that time, there's a story that the very first time I spoke at a school board meeting, I told them my daughter was getting ready for her first day of school. She's very excited, picked out her clothes, her backpack, talking endlessly about what she was going to tell her teachers, what lunch was going to be like, and recess. So excited. The next day, Sisolak brought down the mask mandate for kids. I think it was one day shy of the first day of school. So I was furious, and I needed to do something. I needed to speak up. I'm sorry. I always recall those moments, and they were so emotional.
This is
so
an
it's so
emotional
hard.
issue.
Yeah,
It
it was.
absolutely is.
And I had never spoken up before. It was literally, I was frustrated at home, but that's as far as my frustrations went. The moment that it touched my kids,
Yeah.
and that's when school board meeting came around. I spoke up and I said, you did this to my child for no reason at all, because by that time, the data had shown they were the least to be affected seriously by the COVID virus. To them, it was just a regular cold. So I didn't understand what the reasoning for a mask, So I speak up at the board meeting. I come back and sit down, and there's a lot of parents feeling the exact same way, just very frustrated that their children's experience with school just got ruined.
Yeah.
The government just interfered, just felt its audacity to interfere with the lives of our kids. And we formed this group of parents, concerned parents and guardians. It's called My Children's Advocate, because basically that's what we are. We just advocate for our kids from the moment they're born. We start advocating for them. So our belief is that social issues should be navigated under the guidance and discretion of the belief system at home. So not the government, not any type of left-wing organization. No one can really interrupt the way you want to teach your children. So we formed this group. We started getting activated, involved in county commissioner meetings, speaking up. At one point, we actually showed up in hazmat suits.
Wow.
And I know that's all over
I love it.
like Google, because
Is it? Wow.
That's amazing.
It was a good 10 of us parents showed up in head-to-toe hazmat mask, the whole costume. And basically,
And that was in protest to what?
yes, a mockery to the steps they were
COVID.
taking. Yeah.
wow.
It was just so insane. I mean, you
Powerful
went into
statement.
a store.
Yeah, it is.
And, you saw this floor was marked on where you can stand and
Right.
where you
Wow.
can go. And everything was just so insane. We were treating this COVID virus as if it was the most toxic thing in the world that
Right.
you were just going to die from. And at that point, we already knew that wasn't the case. So, yeah, we showed up in complete mockery of the steps that, the
Wow.
government was taking at that point. So we got involved that way, and we really haven't stopped getting involved because it just keeps coming. It's one issue after another, and we've been busy trying to push back.
Yeah, especially right now, I feel like things are just getting more extreme. What they're pushing, because they have an agenda. They have a.
Definitely.
You look at the UN right now, and they have a reason why they're doing the things right now in our nation. They're trying to control. Exactly. I do have a question for you.
Yes.
How would you say that others could get involved with kind of going against, how government overreached? How can others go against that, get involved?
Show up. Basically, show up at county commissioner meetings, show up at board meetings. And I understand it's not always easy to speak up. It really isn't, but it's become a lot harder to stay quiet.
Right.
And I know I say this all the time. That's kind of one of our models. Silence is consent.
Yes.
So override whatever you feel that, take the extra time to show up and show support, because if you don't care about politics, politics cares about your children.
That's right.
So get involved.
That's
From the
right.
moment of conception.
All right.
And that's what I was going to say earlier. You said we fight for these children from the minute that they're born. And I'd like to say we fight for them before they're born.
Yes,
You
the
know
same
what I
way my
mean?
mom
And
did.
so that
Pre-born.
actually brings us to SB 131. We had Kelly Quinn discussing this bill or at the hearing, and I know that you were there.
Yes.
What were some of the things? First of all, give us a quick rundown. What's SB 131, and what were some of the things that you spoke about at the hearing?
So basically, we signed up to NevadaFamilies.org, and we've been getting the emails updating us on what bills are coming down. I know Kelly Quinn has been very vocal about telling us to get on the website ledge.state.nv.us, ledge state NV.us. Get on it, register for NALIS, and either submit testimony that way or show up and speak, because what we saw that day was Nicole Canizaro, right? It was the
Yes.
sponsor of this particular bill. And she was just outlining how, they want to draw abortionists because they do have a plan to make Nevada one of the leading states in the abortion industry. And already we're seeing stories coming out of Reno where they have these spa type of retreats where you
Right.
can come, and they're building it by the airport.
We
By
call
the
it abortion tourism, aka they want Nevada to be an abortion sanctuary state.
Right. So this bill aims to draw abortionists, and it restricts healthcare boards, licensing boards, from disqualifying them. So that's very alarming. The fact that they just want to draw abortionists at all costs. And as Janine Hansen stated, it's a dumping ground for hack abortionists is what they want to turn Nevada
Wow.
into. So it's very alarming, very worrisome. And I feel it's a prime deal for sex traffickers and
Yes.
pedophiles, because already Nevada has a no parental notification law in place. So, I mean, this is just prime for them to walk in and get these children into these surgical procedures that are life-altering, that can
That's
lend
right.
them sterile for the rest of their lives. So many things can go wrong during an abortion, and that's the part they like to diminish.
That's
and
right.
Put out. So that was SB 131. Can I share a story about? I
Absolutely.
know a friend who her story is very touching, very inspiring, because she, at the age of 14, I believe, was pregnant, became pregnant by a friend of hers, or boyfriend. And at the time, the parents did the right thing. They actually advised them and provided the support for her to keep the baby. She went on to marry this boyfriend at a very young age,
Yeah.
went on to have another child, formed a family. She still went through college, got her BA, joined the military. I mean, has a huge success story.
Yeah.
And she's at a point in her life where, yeah, she may look like the older sister, because her boys are teenagers, but they have a beautiful family and they're her everything.
Wow.
So to think that anyone could have just erased those lives because for whatever reasons, they're just not convenient.
Right.
They're not, for very selfish reasons. And seeing a story of someone that did the complete opposite and grabbed her babies and pushed through life is just a beautiful story. And so many women are missing out on this type of story.
That's one
Sad.
thing that we say in front of the abortion mill is when we're out there being street counselors and we're trying to provide counseling to the women and men who are going into the abortion clinic, is abortion is never the answer. And actually, abortion will wipe out generations.
That's right.
People don't think in those terms. People don't think generations
That's
will
right.
be wiped out.
Because they only feed the talking points of how, you have your right. This is a woman's choice. You have, your autonomy, your
Right.
your right to choose. So
My body, my choice is
right.
what they say.
So they use all the right labels, and these teenagers are really young, really easy to sway.
Right.
It's very impressionable. So they feel they're doing nothing wrong. They're actually doing something that's celebrated in society. They're standing up for their
Right.
choices.
Quote unquote. Mm-hmm.
So they'll never be in a position to really look deeper into the matter because they're carried through the culture. They're being just swayed. It's really sad.
That's why it's so important at First Choice that we empower these women and these young girls that come to us. We have a huge range in age of women that we serve. And basically, if you're old enough to get pregnant, we serve you.
That's beautiful.
And but we empower them through education, because it's not, like you said, being shared out there in this culture. It's being celebrated to abort and to kill, and you're killing generations. It's a very similar story, what you shared, to my own personal story.
Oh, wow.
And it was funny because we were at a restaurant this weekend. We usually go out to a restaurant on Sundays because it's a busy day for us. And after church, we went to this restaurant, and my son opened the door for the people that were coming in behind us, and I didn't even see him doing that. And the woman that entered, she was like, "Okay, who's the mom?" It was me, my oldest daughter, who's 23. My second daughter just had her 22nd birthday yesterday. She wasn't with us, but my son and my youngest daughter, who is 10, was there. And she was like, "All right, well, who's the mom?" And she couldn't figure out between my oldest daughter and I who the mom was. But the reality of it is, I had her when I was 17. I was being groomed to abort her. And at one point in my life, I was able to share with that person that was trying to get me to either abort her or adopt her out. As she walked across the stage valedictorian at her high school, that look at all these lives that would have not been touched with her life. And at the time, she was also very impressionable, but she was leading an example life, and everybody all the younger kids were looking up to her at the time, and she was definitely a leader and a pioneer, as her pastor called it. But she, after giving her valedictorian speech for the first time ever, received a standing ovation. We were told, nobody had ever received a standing ovation after their valedictorian speech. And so in that moment, the person that was grooming me to abort her was sitting next to me.
Wow,
And
that's powerful.
this is somebody that I had looked up to and had a lot of authority in my life when I was 17 years old and impressionable myself. Especially in California, where the culture is abort, abort, abort. And I had friends close to me having abortions, and it just made sense that that would be an option. But when I approached my boyfriend at the time, he was like, "No, we're having this baby."
Thank God.
And because he spoke up in that moment, she is alive today, and I have 2 grandbabies from her. And I just so glad that I spoke up, and I was transparent about that situation with her, because when she became pregnant with her first baby, that baby was disabled, and she was approached by her doctor to abort that baby. But because I shared my story with her, she chose life for her baby. And so that just completely, fully supports what you just said about wiping out generations. It is a ripple effect.
It is, and every person has so much to give. If you think of your children, and as you said, they become teenagers, they become adults, they have so much love, they bring so much to everyone's life. So
It's true.
You're kind of cheating yourself out from all the love you would have received, all those beautiful moments and experiences.
That's right.
And to think that in one fell swoop you just eradicate that, it's mind-boggling how anyone would still push for that.
Right.
Well, I mean, we see that in the Bible of how children are blessings.
Yes.
It says it right there. And it says that every arrow in our quiver, in the man's quiver, is a blessing. I mean, you think about children being arrows.
Right.
We don't think of children being arrows. Those are arrows being sent out into society.
And you need to point them in the right direction.
And raise them up as they should go in a biblical worldview. And this is just a sin issue.
Right.
And people need to, that's why it's so important to
It's
spread the gospel.
It's a spiritual battle.
It is.
As the Bible also tells us
'Cause
that the
it is.
enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. That's exactly what he is doing in your families when somebody goes through with an abortion. He is killing, he is stealing any future memories or impression that one person would have left on this world for Christ.
That's right. And not just to our own each personal family, but to society in general.
Yes.
And there is a direct correlation to the violence we see, because it's desensitizing our culture from valuing life. No one has a respect for life or a value for life. It's so much easier to take it because there's constant talk on how, at the end of the day, it's up to you if you're going to choose to let someone live or die. And it never should have been up to us if we decide, if we take, so the same people that are so for this right to kill an unborn child are the same people that are against a criminal in jail facing the death penalty.
Exactly.
So if you don't have a right to end someone's life in one way, you don't have the right to end someone's life, period, especially of the most innocent of all, the ones that least deserve to face an untimely death.
Right. Innocent blood.
Yes.
Well, and I see it's a true definitive line between liberals and conservatives, because we were just discussing this. Some conservatives, or people who claim to be conservatives, are actually liberal wolves in sheep's clothing, because they will say, oh yes, I'm pro-life, except for rape, except for incest, except for the life of the mother. And that's still contradictory, because those babies' lives still matter. And we can go on and on about that topic. I won't, but but like this week, Jessa Duggar is being attacked fully from the liberal side because she experienced a miscarriage, which is the loss of a pregnancy, or a sporadic loss, a sporadic abortion, but it ends naturally. It's a fatality. And they're trying to go around saying that she had an abortion. And that is just a slap in the face of everyone who's ever had a miscarriage in their lives, because there are procedures that have to happen. Sometimes the body does not naturally. I'll let you speak into this because you're the nurse. I will. Shut up now. You go ahead.
No, you're exactly right.
What happens in a miscarriage, and what happens when that miscarriage doesn't naturally flush?
So what happens in a miscarriage is that any part of the fetal development is just it just is a sequence of events that unfortunately the child is not able to fully implant themselves into the uterine lining or whatever it may be. It can be various different things that are going on. But if the baby is not completely, after the miscarriage has happened and all of the tissue is not out of the womb, all of the baby is not out of the womb, it can cause significant harm. It can cause septic, which is infection, and it can lead to death. So that's why it's very important to make sure that everything is all of the baby, unfortunately, and it's such a sad situation.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a life, but because it was a natural death, death. There was no intention behind it.
Right.
There was no intention. So with that is a very mournful process for the mother and for the father.
It's a loss.
It's a loss. And so it is very important to make sure all of the products of the baby are out.
Yes.
And I hate to use the word products, but it's very important. So for somebody to people to twist that around, using it for evil and saying this is an abortion, is so vile and so evil and so wicked to do that to a person, to a couple who are mourning their child.
Right.
I just think certain things
Despicable timing.
should be off limits. Going into a woman's experience of miscarriage, to use that and try to use that to make a statement, it's just it kind of shows you the spirit that's driving these people.
Right.
And it's just you're trying to hurt
Right.
people that are trying to stand up for life, and it's very, very evil. I don't know, are you done with the education? Because I did want to mention something else. It's also just...
We have about 1 minute left, so you have it.
Go.
Okay, so the sex ed committee that the school board chose is it's made up of there's one person in particular, Dr. Shameless, who happens to be a sexologist and who sells adult products. She's actually sitting on the sex ed committee of CCSD. And the curriculum they adopted is called Advocates for Youth, and it's founded by, guess who? Planned Parenthood. Yes.
Oh.
So it's all just one giant dirty
Perversion.
machine. Yes, it is.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so Advocates for Youth, if you check them out on
Great.
Instagram, on wherever, their website, you will be alarmed because it really does train kids to
Wow.
be activists and how to fight pro-choice and fight for abortions. So-
All right, conservatives, it's our time to get out there and train our youth to become activists for life.
Right.
One of the things that you can do to do that is join our March for Life on March 25th. You can get registered today at fcpsfriends.org. It is a fundraising event. We're trying to get $75,000 to continue the great work that we do at First Choice Pregnancy Services. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Lorena.
Thank you for having
I hope
me.
you come back on.
Will do. Thank you.
Everyone, God bless and have a wonderful week. Thanks for joining your ambassadors for the unborn on the Fight for Life radio today and every Thursday on KKVV 1060 AM, the best news radio, the gospel airship.
If you'd like to support the cause of saving unborn babies, or if you have a question you'd like us to answer on the air, go to fcpsfriends.org or call us at 702-294-CARE. Again, that number is 702-294-2273.
On behalf of his little ones, thank you and God bless.
Praise God. This is Brother Ray Cordova coming to you from KKVV here in Las Vegas. We want to let you know about our radio program Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Friday at 3 o'clock. And at Thursday, 3:30.